Amen. Amen. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. This is Elder Pamela Horn of Consuming Fire Ministries, and I'm coming to you from Haw River, North Carolina with Fireside Talks. We're going to be talking about the ingredients of godly relationships. And welcome to Freed Souls Radio. With me on tonight is my sister-in-law, and her name is Daphne Horn. Amen. And we're just going to start with the basics of what is a relationship before we get into the ingredients of godly relationships. Let's define relationship. What is a relationship? Well, first of all, it refers to a connection, an association between two or more people, or in other words, the way that people are involved with each other. It can be between family, a relationship between friends, your spouse or lover, your acquaintances, or your peers. In the most basic sense, a relationship refers to a connection shared by two or more individuals, like among groups of people, or like me and you, sister-in-law.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. This connection determines, in turn, or is influenced by your emotions and your behaviors of the people that's involved. Such a connection can be established by behaviors of the people, of the marriage, in the marriage, and it could be negative, it could be a positive, or it could be platonic, or could be romantic. These are just like the basic definitions of what a relationship is. Now, we know that we have to have a relationship with God, but we're just talking about the basic definitions of what the world sees as relationships. What do you think about just like, relationships? Let's see, family relationships.
Well, me specifically, I have a relationship with my husband because I'm married to my pastor, Pamela Horn's brother, Martin Horn. And so that's a relationship that's, been put together, by marriage. But it's constantly evolving. I also am a mother. We have a daughter. And so I have that relationship that I also, have been blessed with. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey up to this point. But
what were some of the challenges of being married to my brother, my God?
I just initially, just meeting him, I would say, of course, you have that initial just honeymoon phase of being in a new relationship. Yeah.
I know you thought he was all that in the beginning. Yeah.
Of course, everything's super, super easy, and you don't see the imperfections or the flaws right off, or there again, our relationship had to evolve. Of course, you can't stay in that initial phase of just meeting someone and dating them. You do have disagreements or times where you don't see eye to eye, and you have to talk through that. You have to get to know one another. Yes. And that's ever evolving. And
Amen. Well, let's talk about a study in 2019. Explains the concept as mutually acknowledged ongoing voluntary interactions. That's what they describe as relationship. Research shows that the nature and quality of the relationship, whether positive or negative, depends on things like responsiveness of the people in the relationship. You know, you can't have a relationship by yourself. You know, it's hard to have a relationship with somebody that doesn't communicate with you.
I would say I would definitely agree with it being difficult to have a relationship when you're in a relationship with a human being.
Mhm. Now I'm naturally quiet. You might not know or think that, but naturally I'm quiet. So, you know, it kind of, when you meet me for the first time, it's kind of hard to pull me out of my comfort zone. You know, I'm comfortable right now because I'm hiding behind the radio, basically. But as far as when people first meet me, it's hard to get that connection with me and get that relationship going because I naturally sit back and observe. You know, and I might observe you for about a year before I feel comfortable with you, you know. And so it takes interaction. Amen.
I agree.
And you know, responsiveness. And when one individual understands or recognizes and acknowledges the values and supports the various aspects of the other person, then they feel committed and satisfied and they feel close. You know, when you have a one-sided relationship, you know, you don't feel validated.
Yeah, I agree.
When somebody acknowledges, you know, the things that you like and acknowledges the things that makes you special, then you feel validated and you feel more open and you feel, you know, closer to that person. So,
and I do feel like relationships between two human beings, and I'm talking specifically about me and my husband, again, Martin, take effort on each individual's part.
Oh, I know it takes some effort with my brother.
Oh, wow. Yes.
He's special,
yeah, it's a choice though, even when you're just dating, to be in a relationship.
Yeah, there's a lot of aspects that come into that too. When you're coming into a marriage, and there's different things that you have to consider. Does he have outside obligations? Does he have you know, the money? Everything comes into play. Where does he want to live? What does he want to eventually end up doing? Are y'all compatible in those areas?
And it's give and take, and it's compromise on both of our parts, working together as one. I mean, it wasn't always easy, you know, but we've been together for a while, been married for a while.
Well, I say, my sister, you make it seem like it's easy, amen. But yeah, I know my brother, and I know it's got to be a challenge somewhere in there. Typically, a relationship can be a relationship or a connection with yourself.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that because when you were initially defining what relationships, what a relationship is, I was going to say, well, you know, you can also have a relationship with yourself, as I would hope that many would, or most would. You know, I think you have to know a lot about yourself.
Yeah, for me, I had a whole lot of relationship with myself because I was so quiet. And it has, I mean, it takes some people years to really be able to crack the shell that surrounds me and really get to know me and get to know, you know, my heart. Family members, there's relationships with family members and relatives. Amen. And you know, I think about that, you know, in going into a marriage, you're not just marrying that person. You know, with Martin came 7 siblings.
Yes.
And children. He had children, you know, before you married him. So
yes.
it was a lot that went into making that relationship work, because those factors, you know, on top of trying to work your relationship between the two of you is a lot, because you have to get to know parents and siblings and personalities and cousins and friends and all of that, and try to fit into all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and him as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a lot. Then you have relationships that are friendships. And I think the challenge, one of the biggest challenges of being in making new friends is finding somebody that you're compatible with, that likes to do the same things you like to do. You know, sometimes people get lost in other people, you know, trying to please other folks. You know, I heard one friend of mine say that, but this wasn't a friendship, but this was a relationship that she had been in. And the guy pretended to like coffee and go to the coffee house every morning and, you know, sit and drink coffee with her. And then after the relationship was done, he was like, I never liked coffee no way, you know, that type of thing. But he was doing that to please her, or, you know, make an impression on her. So people do that. And they pretend to like things that they don't like, you know. A lot of people will talk about things that, oh, I love to to hike and do this and do that, because they think that would impress the person. Well, when it comes down to it, oh, let's go hiking. Oh, okay. You really have never been hiking before. So then you have your relationships with your spouse.
And before you move on, what I will say too with like trying to impress, you know, especially if you're a male trying to gain the attention of a woman, and maybe even vice versa, a woman trying to gain the attention of a male. But like, I'll take it back even to when you're a child and you're, you know, in school, middle school, high school, it being more of, what was I gonna say, just trying to fit in, you know, I guess you know, you could say to have friends or what have you, or to get a relationship going with them. Yeah. But I think as you get older, it's more like, does this person beliefs line up with mine? You know, and I will add to that, once you're saved, if you're saved, you know, you're trying to live a godly life, it's more or less, does this person beliefs line up with mine? So it's a little bit deeper.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, well, they don't, you know, they don't see an issue with a Christian and a Muslim married. But I see all kinds of red flags.
Yes, I agree.
All kinds of red flags.
My opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't believe the same thing, you know, a Christian with a Jehovah's Witness, or, you know, a Christian with a Buddhist, or, you know, if you don't believe the same things, then somebody is gonna be trying to influence the other person.
I agree.
Either I'm gonna try to pull you over to my side, or you're gonna try to pull me over to your side. Amen.
It's gonna be a tug of war.
It is gonna be a tug of war. So you have your romantic or spouses or sexual partners in a relationship. You have your teacher and coaches and student relationships. And we've seen a lot of that on the news lately in the past 20, 30 years, that teachers having overstepping the boundaries and having romantic relationships with their students. And, you know, then you have relationships that's like a roommate, your neighbors. And how hard is it when you can't get along with your neighbor? If you think about it, you purchase a house in a neighborhood and you have somebody that's next door to you that you can't get along with. And I've seen on some of these crime shows where people go as far as killing each other. Amen. I think that's a commercial break. Right now, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we will return shortly on Freed Souls Radio CF with more of Fireside Talks, the ingredients of godly relationships. And amen. We're back for more of Fireside Talks with your host, Elder Pamela Horn. And with me this evening again is my sister-in-law, Daphne Horn. And we're just talking about relationships and the basics of what a relationship is. Amen. So, okay, a relationship can also be a professional connection. And it's hard going into an environment professionally where you don't get along with your coworkers. Amen.
Amen.
Now, that, and if you're trying to stay in that profession, it can be especially hard when you don't have a personal connection with each other. There'll be a lot of backstabbing and fighting and all of that kind of stuff. A lot of dissension, and that right there can lead to you being sick, because you're sick and tired of every day you got to go into that job and work with people that you don't like or they don't like you, makes it hard. Just like with your neighbors, you purchasing a house and it takes you 30 years to pay for that house. And you're beside somebody that doesn't like you because of the color of your skin, or doesn't like you for being a Christian, doesn't like you for whatever reason, And
so true. I will say this. So funny you should mention neighbors, because I feel so proud to be the neighbor of the house that's to the left of me. If you're facing my house, we're always talking, Andy and Aaron. I mean, they're just the sweetest couple. In fact, she flagged me down, Aaron did, the other day, and just asked me how I was doing, and we had some chit chat, and they're just a lovely couple. And then, of course, I have Janet and Steve across from me. And I happened to wave at Janet as I was going to see my mom.
I don't know my neighbors.
However, I mentioned to her we would have to talk. I think either as I was coming back, or anyways, we talked. We talked as I was coming from an errand. I'd taken a few bags in and I went back out and I talked to her and I got to chit chat with her. And not only did I talk with her, I talked to her mother and her daughter.
And see, that's a good thing, to have a good relationship with your neighbors. Like I said, I don't know my neighbors. I know one, and that's the one on this side of me, And she she checks on me and calls me from time to time, see how I'm doing and that thing. But I mean, I met my neighbor across the street. One neighbor moved out and another set came in. I never did meet them, but the one, I met him across the street. I locked myself out of my own house when I first bought the house, and I locked myself out. And then, of course, I was waiting on Martin to come and unlock the door.
See, my husband is very helpful.
Yeah, when he wants to be. So that's how I met him. But like I said, I really don't know too many people. I don't really venture out, and some people are just so outgoing. And if Daddy was over here, Daddy would know everybody on the street.
Yes,
by the time, because that was how it was kind of, the last place I lived. And I'm not that type of person. I kind of keep to myself more or less, but not that I'm a bad neighbor or anything like that, And then you have relationships with just acquaintances. Some people you're just acquainted with. Sometimes you have, and sometimes you have relationships with groups of people. Like the Women of Triumph Ministry that I'm a part of. There's a group of women that, you know, we might not necessarily have met everybody, but we are connected by the group,
By the ministry.
by the ministry. And we bond as sisters, you know, that way. So then we have relationships that are negative. Everybody has a hater. Everybody has somebody that's in competition with them.
Whether they know
And
it or not.
everybody has their enemies. Yeah, whether they know it or not. You think that, you know, everybody loves you, but they don't, unfortunately. So we're talking about just the basic relationships. Now, relationship is a complex connection. It is. It's complex. There's many, many things that go into an actual relationship, and the connection relies on the individuals and the unique bond that they share. So many different types of associations often can coexist. They can be conflicts, or they can overlap with each other. And each type can have a subtype and variation. Relationships, especially what they call familial or family relationships or marital relationships, they're lifelong connections. You think about it, and they can impact your well-being across the whole course of your life.
Yes.
When you marry into a family, you're part of that family. Now, then you have your own child, so that child is part of the family. Now, think about it. How many marriages have caused internal conflicts in a family because mama or daddy didn't approve, or the other family members didn't approve of the person that they married?
Many.
And it goes to some extent where they won't attend the wedding, you know. Okay, and once you're married, you've made that choice. Well, I'm going to marry him or her anyway. Well, your spouse is not welcome at the dinner table. So how do we do that? How do we handle Christmas and Thanksgiving and things like that when I can't bring my spouse over? Or if I do, it might end into, in some fighting or something like that, because they feel just that strongly about this person.
I don't know.
That
definitely
causes division.
But
you're talking about a life. A marriage is supposed to be a lifelong commitment.
Yes.
So you have to think about these things. When mom and daddy says, no, I don't like that person for you, and you say, okay, but you don't listen, and you marry that person anyway. So then when you start having children of your own, and your spouse knows that your family doesn't like him, they don't welcome him, well, he doesn't want his child around them.
True, it's like a snowball effect.
It is a snowball effect.
Now, I didn't know if you were asking me the solution, because I don't know the solution other than you're definitely gonna need Jesus.
Jesus, exactly. Jesus. That's where your relationship with God comes in, because
absolutely
a lot of things can seem impossible. But with God, all things are possible.
I agree.
And I have seen, mended relationships, family relationships, because of their connection or their relationship with God, or establishing one. Because sometimes when you don't have a relationship with God, some things can be blown out of proportion.
I agree.
Yeah, and you look at things a whole lot different, and more, I guess, serious than what they really are.
Yeah.
Well, or you don't try to.
But isn't that
come to a
but isn't that what the enemy does best?
Yeah, he does. He does.
Yeah, he can make
a lot of confusion.
Magnify something that seems so simple or trivial,
mm-hmm.
or easy to resolve.
And this can be mentally draining on a person if you're caught in the middle of a situation like that. And if you can imagine, you're trying to keep the peace. Of course, I love my mother and father, so I'm not gonna give up my relationship with my parents because I'm married, but I can't give up my relationship with my spouse because my parents don't like them. So if you're caught in the middle and you're trying to, okay, let me go see mom and daddy over here for an hour or whatever before he gets home from work or whatnot, and I'll have his dinner on the stove and be a good wife, that type of thing. But it's really hard when family does not like that person.
It's a tough, it can be a balancing act.
It can be really hard trying to keep peace. Now, mixed marriages can be hard because you have to understand each other's culture, and you got to merge those, be able to merge those cultures. And then when you start having kids, there's sometimes there's an identity crisis because, okay, mommy's white, daddy's black, or daddy's white, mommy's black, and what am I?
Yeah.
So a lot of times the kids, they do struggle with that. I remember a girlfriend of mine, she was white, but she had a child by a black man. And the baby didn't understand why she didn't have hair like mommy's hair. And she wanted a kitty perm, and I went to visit them, and she was in the middle of the, it was Kmart at that time. Her grandmother had worked at Kmart. So we went by to see her, and she's in the middle of the aisle holding, hugging a kitty perm and begging mama to get her a kitty perm. She's probably about 4 years old, but she was able to connect with me, in my hair. And later on she was a little bit better, but those are things that sometimes can be a challenge to kids, can be a challenge in marriages. Different religious beliefs and backgrounds, that can be a major problem. Like I said, you have a Muslim and you have a Christian. Amen.
Amen.
So then you have two mothers or two fathers. And that can be hard on a child going to school, especially when their friends come from what we call traditional families between a man and a woman.
Yes. Yes.
And we have a whole lot of that now. And it can be hard on the kids because they don't understand, love is love, and who they receive love from is who they receive love from. So they don't understand because that's what they're taught.
Yes.
But they go to school, and I think we're about to go to another quick commercial break. And we will return shortly on Freed Souls Radio CF with more of Fireside Talk. So keep that talk. We started before.
When you hear them bells again, just disregard them, okay?
Okay. Amen.
Here we go.
Amen. Okay, we're back for more Fireside Talks with your host, Elder Pamela Horn, and joining me this evening, again, my sister-in-law, Daphne Horn. And we were talking about different conflicts in families and different type of relationships that could cause conflicts and religious beliefs. And when your religious beliefs and backgrounds don't match, that's why, what does the word say about that? Marrying somebody that you're unequally yoked with.
Yes.
There's different definitions or different meanings behind that. But one of them is marrying outside of your belief system. Number one, I mean, you can marry somebody with the same beliefs and still not be matched, not be equally yoked together. Because we got a variety in the faith of beliefs. Even though we believe in the same God, we're Christians or whatever, some people believe something different than what you're taught to believe. So that could cause a problem. What about adoption?
I think it's a great alternative.
It is
to a couple or even a single, man or woman that desires to be a parent and can't,
It is a great alternative, but not saying that traditional families between the husband and the wife and having their kids naturally, they have the challenges of their own, and they still, some of them don't work out.
That's so true.
When you are bringing in adoption into the picture, it can be hard to navigate, especially when the child has a sense of identity crisis, because it's not so bad when the child isn't told, but then they're told later on, then they have that identity crisis. But when they know from the beginning that some kids, they were adopted at 4 years old, so they can remember some things before they were adopted, and they know that they were adopted. So this is not my biological mother or my biological father. So that makes them wonder, where did I come from?
Which is a question to ask that I think is warranted if that's something you desire, even though you do have this adopted or this mother and father that adopted you. I think it's a question warranted asking if that's something you choose to do when you get of age.
Yeah, because sometimes, and I wouldn't want my child, if I adopted a child, to seek out their parents or their natural parents before a certain age. Once they've grown, but in some situations, it's not a good thing to actually let them be exposed to their natural parents. I've had, offered, I guess, over the years, opportunities to adopt in different situations. Even had one because I worked at a jail for over 27 and a half years, and even had one of the female inmates that were facing a little time in prison ask me to take her daughter. And sometimes I regret that I didn't, I didn't do it because I was trying to look at all those angles, because even though she was going off to prison, I still had to deal with her, as the mother.
Yes.
And then she had the family dynamics that she didn't want them to have the child for a reason, but I still would have had to deal with them.
Would have been,
and that would have been letting a whole bunch of folks in my life, basically. And I didn't want that. So
you weighed everything out.
Had to weigh those options. So sociologists are interested in the relationship between the institution of marriage and the institution of family, because historically marriages are what create a family. And families are the most basic social unit upon which our society is built.
Yeah.
Let's think about Adam and Eve. And
The first
yeah,
couple, first
and the first
marriage,
family.
the first family.
God told them to be fruitful and multiply. There was definite problems or issues with that. Even we were doing Sunday school this morning about Cain and Abel. You know, that was the first murder and the first murder of a sibling. You know, they call it fratricide or something like that, where he killed his brother. He rose up and killed his brother, because you have to deal with, when you're having kids, like I said, it was 8 of us. So when you joined the family, you had, 7 other, and you're a single child, not only child, but only girl. You have brothers of your own, but you're only girl. So that was a lot of things, obstacles that you had to overcome.
Yeah, and then not only the only girl, but the oldest. I felt like I had more responsibility, and I also felt like, like I needed to kind of watch out and look out for my younger siblings, which happened to be boys.
Yeah,
and that worked pretty well until they got big enough to, or grown enough or taller than me.
So
I thought they could tell me what to do.
Amen. So again, what is a family? Because we got so many variations of families out here. And we're going to talk about that. But traditionally, a family was a husband and a wife, maybe 2 kids, maybe a dog or a cat. They're like a little traditional family, or the model for that traditional type family. But what about families that deviate from this model? Such as, you got single parents.
Yeah, that seems
but they're still families.
They are.
They're still families. They
say
have a single parent household, but they're still
a family. They've become more prevalent, I want to say, over the last several decades.
And another one that has become prevalent is the homosexual couples, some with kids and some without, but they're still a family unit.
Yes.
So, or at least, they're considered as a family unit. Now, the question of what constitutes a family is a prime area of debate in family sociology, as well as in politics and in religion. Again, we hold to that, what is a traditional family? But I thought about this, and it was crazy because not only do we as humans have non-traditional type families now, but you even see it in the animal kingdom. If you ever looked at these little shows where the animals adopt each other. I've seen, where they show a little show about a little dog that adopts a kitten, and the cat helps raise the kitten, because it doesn't have a mother, And animals are something. Ducks, they can adopt cats, or whatever. But that cat would end up thinking that it's a dog, or it end up thinking that it's a duck, because that's no matter how you look at it, that's mama. It's a dog, but that's mama, you know, because that's all the cat or the kitten knew,
Mhm.
or that's all the kitten knew is that the duck was mama. So
We provided that
yeah,
support, that
but they
love.
yeah, they do. They nurture and they love them, and they take them in under their wings, so to speak. And you know,
That kind of reminds me of this book that I read this summer, during summer school to, my class, called The Two Bobbies.
mhm,
And it is about a dog and a cat during the time of Hurricane Katrina.
mhm.
And it's a really, really cute book. I never read it. Yeah, so it is based in truth. And so I recommend it as a reading,
Mhm.
which kind of highlights what you talked about, animals adopting
And
each other.
it's really fascinating how they bond, and they take those animals, it's just um it's just really fascinating
Mm.
because you see that animals they have a lot of they're multifaceted, you know, and sometimes humans are not as affectionate as an animal can
I was
be.
gonna say. I was
So,
gonna say,
yeah. They got us beat in some areas, you know.
I agree.
Yeah. So different religions practice polygamy, where the man can have multiple wives, and along with that, of course, they have children by these multiple wives. You got some states that recognize common law marriage. That's another one, where the couple has maybe lived together, cohabitated for over a period of years. And I think some states say 7 years. If you've been together for 7 years, then you're legally in a binding common law marriage. So if it's just like you getting a divorce, if you leave that person, you still you're still obligated to certain things, as if that was your wife or your husband. So let's talk about polygamy. I have seen that show, what's it called?
Sister Wives.
Sister Wives. And he has four wives? And all of those kids, and these people, I don't know how they just end up having money to have I think he had 4 different houses at one time. They all kind of lived around the same area, and he would go spend time with this wife and this family, and then I think that one season he had brought all of them together. But I would watch little episodes here and there, but I wasn't, really following it. But I did see a commercial about an episode that was coming up on that. And one of the older sons was telling the mother, he was venting his anger at the fact that dad had been at the other wife's house for the last 9 months and pretty much ignoring them. So, I mean, and he was like, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it, And I thought about it fast, and you can't make 4 wives happy and 20-something kids happy. Everybody's just gonna be happy to get a little bit of time with the husband,
Or dad.
So I don't understand how does that work? They say, oh, we're happy, we're, sister wives, but they can't stand each other. Some of them are jealous of each other because this one gets more time with the husband. He prefers her, and he has been acting like this last wife was his only wife lately. He's kind of put the other ones down. So that has to make him feel some kind of way, Yeah. So, I mean, that's
no comment.
That's crazy. I just couldn't do that.
No comment.
But there's a lot of things goes into understanding just basic relationships, and it just means, it means different things to different people, relationship.
That's true, Pam.
But a good, healthy bonding or association includes two or more people who respect and love each other. They can communicate with each other. They got equal rights and responsibilities in this relationship. It can be a short-term relationship. It can be a long-term relationship, baby.
Yeah.
It's a lot that goes into relationships, and bonding is not the same for everyone. People bond over different things, but it requires such things as love and attention and communication and affection and space and boundaries, sexual boundaries, physical boundaries, mental boundaries. Commitment goes into that. Compatibility goes into that. Respect and your values. And there's just so much more that goes into that, into bonding with a person. If you're, like I said, unequally yoked, it's hard to bond with a person because you don't have the same things, certain things in common. So that causes a problem. I want to go to church and you want to go to the mosque, and then you want to drag the kids to the mosque and I want to drag the kids to church. So it's hard enough when it's just the two of you, but then when you bring children into the picture, that causes another
relationship.
That's another floodgate that's open. So
and so would you say all that you just named off would equal a healthy relationship, or what would be?
Well, it just depends on like what things that you have in common with each other. Because like, let's say affection. Some people are very affectionate and some people are not. They don't like, what you call it, public displays of affection. And so, your husband is trying to walk with you hand in hand and you're like, no, I don't like holding hands. I don't like this, or you're just too close to me, give me my space. Your boundaries, things that, you don't like to do. Maybe he does, but you don't like to do. Your commitment. Now, maybe you want to be in a committed relationship and they don't want to be so committed. You know what I'm saying? You got those. Are you compatible with each other? Do you respect one another? It's just so much that goes into your values. What are your values? Your values can be very different, especially in a relationship, and that covers relationships with friends, with co-workers, with anybody, your significant other, your family. Sometimes it doesn't match up. It doesn't mesh up, So that's kind of hard to sustain a relationship in those, under those circumstances. So let's go on. Let's talk about this 2016 research paper said that an infant's ability to form or maintain a healthy connection starts to grow within from the very beginning, especially with the primary caregiver who satisfies the infant's need for food, love, warmth, affection, care, stimulation, and protection. Any kind of connection or association requires proper and constant communication and care, as such traits are extremely essential for fostering a healthy bonding. A baby can bond, to anybody. But sometimes, a baby is born and the mother dies. So it doesn't ever get a chance to bond with its natural mother, but it might have a bond with the nurse that's taking care of it, for the first couple, days or weeks of his life. Whoever's there, whoever is in that role, as being the caregiver, as being the mother figure type, Baby don't
Mhm.
know, you know. Um,
That's a good point.
and that goes back to those animals. They don't know, they didn't know, the cat didn't know that it was a cat. And the dog is mother and playing mother to it, it's gonna think it's a dog. And it's gonna,
It
gonna
also
fit
makes
in.
that what you just said also makes me think of the movie Losing Isaiah,
Mm-hmm,
and how that doctor just fell in love with the little boy and ended up adopting him
mm-hmm.
from Earth. She was his,
Yeah,
primary
but
caregiver.
when
and-
the mother came back in the picture and wanted to get him back, it was like he didn't respond to her. He didn't know her.
Absolutely.
He wasn't
Right.
bonded with her. That wasn't his mother as far as he knew, It was the woman that had taken care of him. And she was the one that knew, what to do for him, because she had spent the time with him and she had raised him.
Nurturing,
So even though they
Parenting.
gave her
paternal.
parental rights,
Right.
she realized the best thing for him was to be back with the adoptive mother, because she was doing more damage than good,
Absolutely.
with the child, because she hadn't been with him all of those years.
Which is a good
Yeah.
point.
Wow. Why do our relationships matter? Why is it important to us? A meaningful life depends on our human connections or our associations that we share with other people. You can't be be a one, on an island by yourself, and you'd be crazy, just like Castaway when he started talking to the soccer ball. He just made him a person out of the soccer ball, Wilson. It's hard. You have to have a connection with somebody sometime, you know. Even though I'm quiet, I couldn't just be by myself and not have any kind of connections or relationships with anybody.
I agree.
Those people, they play an important role in how we turn out our happiness.
Mhm.
I would be very, very depressed if I was, by myself completely. I might be quiet, but if there was nobody else that I might not, want to talk to somebody on a daily basis, but at some time I'm going to want to talk to somebody. So if I was the last person on earth, I would not be happy.
Right.
Even though I like to be alone, I don't like to be totally alone, That's why, relationships matter. It's important. People play important roles in our happiness.
I have to agree with that.
So people need people. And a lot of times I don't need nobody, but people need people. You need somebody sometime.
Well, yeah, I mean, you need them for some of the basic things we have to tend to. You have to pay bills, don't you? There's certain things you have to get your medication filled. You have to go and, have your annual physical.
Mm-hmm. So, you need people, whether it be professional or family or, acquaintances.
Mm-hmm.
You need people for different things. So although you might have some people that are loners, they still need to be surrounded by other people at some point in time. A 2010 study says that having a satisfying relationship is the key contributor to retaining and increasing future life satisfaction. People gradually become dependent on others for both physical and spiritual survival. In simple terms, the quality of our connection or association with other people defines our quality of life. So, and that's true. It defines our quality of life. there are certain people that, you know, I have encountered over the years, and I wonder, I never seen a family member or a friend, or never talked about anybody in particular, you know. And I wonder, you know, what kind of life do these people really have? Are they happy? You know, what kind of quality of life is that? Because you have some people that are just quiet, or some people that are not people.
Kind of introverted,
Yeah, and
kind of like
kind of weird. You know, sometimes you can be introverted, but without being weird. But there are some people out there that really you wonder, because I like to watch those little crime shows, and when they do the studies on the psychopaths, and and they always go back to their childhood, and they talk about how the person responded to, you know, the people, and how they responded to this and that, and how they started hurting animals, and they did this. They didn't have any, you know, connection to anything, or any remorse, or any, you know. And that's what I think about, you know, when I see a person like that. Are they potentially a serial killer?
yeah.
Are they a psychopath? You know, and it's not a huge jump. But, you know, having emotional support and feeling connected or loved elevates positivity, and it increases your self-esteem, and leads to, you know, and it, you know, develops your happiness, and it leads to, you know, whether you will be happy or not. I think about the movie The Help, when the maid was interacting with the child, the little white child, and she was always reinforcing to her that she was smart, that she was kind, that she was important, because the mother didn't take any time with her. No. And the mother, you know, in that movie was very detached from the child. So the child was always, look, mommy, look at, you know, and trying to get mommy's attention, and trying to be validated by mommy, when she wouldn't validate this child or give her the love, or, you know, the attention or care that she needed. And she got it from the maid. And it was so sad when when they fired the maid, because I was like, I know it's a movie, but I'm thinking, you know, what would, in that case, what would happen to that child? Because this is seemingly the only person that loved it, you know, and instilled those great things into that child, to believe about herself, you know, to give her that self-esteem. And it's important when you don't have people in your life that reinforce your self-esteem. Yes, you know, you can grow up really, you know, really messed up, and thinking that you're nobody, and you don't, you know. So it's important.
You know, you wonder if the little girl would, you know, just maybe not continue to.
It would stunt her growth.
I was going to say regress, maybe.
Regress, yeah. And I'm pretty sure, you know, after she lost the one person in her corner, you know, that was devastating. So relationships, they have benefits that include when you have a relationship, it helps take your mind off of stress and anxiety and negative thoughts. You know, when you have a friend that you can talk to, sometimes when you're going through and you don't have a relationship or with anybody that you can communicate with, it's especially hard to get through things, to get over things. You know, you have a really hard time getting through, especially if you don't have a relationship with God.
That's so true.
So you don't have a relationship with God, and you don't have a relationship with people. You know, That's hard. Having those relationships help us to feel less alone. It gives us that emotional support, love, affection. It gives us guidance when we have relationships, and it makes us feel like we're cared for, just like the little girl. She was emotionally supported and cared for in the movie by just having that lady say, "You are smart. You is kind. You is smart. You is important. You is." Yeah, love that.